We got to see Shohei Ohtani hit on a field for the first time in a long time, and the first time as a Dodger. And man, was it a beautiful sight to see. We'll talk about what it looked like and what he said after. We'll also talk about Yoshinobu Yamamoto and him adjusting to the MLB spring and everything else that comes with it, including how he's preparing for the season. And we'll finish up with some comments from Mookie Betts about how the season is not played on paper and how you still have to come through when it matters. So that's what's coming up. So let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. And you customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. This is a daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to become an everydayer, all you have to do is listen or watch every day, which can be made easier by subscribing and get notified when our episodes are up and ready. If this is your first time listening, watching, welcome. You get Jeff, which is my co-host there. You get me, which is Vince. And Jeff and I are both lifelong Dodger fans that have been doing this podcast here for almost 5 years. And we've covered the team for longer than that. And we've been fans even longer than that. So got a lot of experience with the Dodgers. And we're here to bring you what we think is knowledgeable and rational takes about the Dodgers and, informing you about the Dodgers, informing ourselves about the Dodgers, and becoming better Dodger fans together. And that's what we're here to do. Once again, Jeff, you held it down yesterday. Super Bowl is a long day when it's kind of like a holiday. And but we don't get the Monday off, the Super Bowl off yet. But, it happens.
Yeah. I think it makes sense that the one of us who doesn't drink would hold down the fort on Super Bowl night. So I was probably in a little bit better podcasting condition than you were.
Yeah, it was a long weekend in the snow for me, so it was a lot of not as much going outside and kind of more hanging out. But it was quite a weekend for the Dodgers in terms of seeing sights and sounds from the spring, which you touched on yesterday. And we got more of that, and probably the best part of it so far, we got to see Shohei Ohtani hit on-field batting practice for the first time as a Dodger, for the first time since he had surgery last season. And, for somebody that kind of mentioned who wanted to start off slow, how he's not fully 100%, Shohei Ohtani swung 21 times and hit 10 baseballs over the fence.
Yeah, and it was, he said that his plan coming in was to not really be swinging very hard. It was supposed to just be a light batting practice, and he felt so good that he swung harder. He said by the end, his last few swings were probably 80 to 90%. And if you can hit, 48% home runs, swinging 80 to 90%, that's probably pretty good. And he was asked if he was surprised that he was hitting the ball so well. And he said he was. He said it's a good sign, but he also kind of cautioned. He said this is Arizona and it's a batting practice pitcher, so we're not going to get too excited about anything. The ball does fly in Arizona between the dry air and the altitude. But batting practice, Austin Barnes hits home runs in batting practice, but not like Shohei Ohtani does. Like, these were some majestic blasts, and like, shout out to the Dodgers social media team, because the camera angle, that looked like they just put a GoPro or some camera on the ground at the back of the cage, so you could actually get the angle of these moonshots that Shohei was hitting. And it was a beautiful angle, beautiful swing. Now, for me, the most encouraging thing was just the explosiveness of the swing. Yeah, the pitcher's not trying to get him out, the air, all that, but the swing looks beautiful, and like the quickness. That's one of the things that's always set Ohtani apart, is that he just has faster hands than almost anybody in baseball. And you could see that even it was his first time taking batting practice on the field since his oblique injury last year. And yet you could see that hand speed, and it was remarkable.
Yeah, believe on the social media front, I believe their dude Hunter did post that it was a GoPro. You got some GoPro action for that. So,
Hunter
the
is
dot,
really good at his job.
yeah, very,
The
very,
whole
very
team
good.
is Hunter and Eric and Sujo, obviously. Like they do a great job.
Yeah, and now they got some new weapons to play around with this spring. So, looking forward to seeing what else they bring to us. But yeah, I mean, for Ohtani, obviously I've seen Otani's batting practice before. He doesn't do it very often during the regular season. He did it during the World Baseball Classic last year. I want to say maybe I've seen it during All Star. I don't know if he was out there for any of the All Star games, but regardless, I've seen a lot of batting practice, and some people just have more impressive batting practices than others, and Otani is one of those guys. So, while we do take it with a grain of salt, it's also a matter of if he looks how he did before, that's pretty impressive in itself. And for him, he talked about the day before when he talked to the media about how he feels he can unlock a couple more levels to his hitting, especially being able to just focus on hitting this season, and not having to worry about pitching. And that's pretty scary considering the offensive numbers he's put up already. And now, sitting, it's just, a lot of different facts sitting in a lineup, like realistically, probably, is either going to have Freddie Freeman behind him or Will Smith behind him or Max Muncy. Like he's going to have somebody legitimate behind him. He's going to be in a lineup, which, you don't want to put guys on base anyway. So you have to pitch to him regardless. And, yeah, I mean, he already has the numbers in the late and close games. He has all that type of stuff. And this is just that first step toward it. And like I said, it's just, we're already excited. We've talked about it a lot, how excited we are for this season coming up. And we're probably going to have an Ohtani segment every day leading up until the season, just because, he's already given us a lot to talk about and there's still more to get into. And yeah, I mean, it's been fun.
Yeah. And we downplay it, say it is just batting practice, but the fact is, yeah, Shohei Ohtani does have impressive batting practices, and throughout his career, he has translated that to impressive shows during games too. And that's why, we are going to be more excited about a Shohei Ohtani batting practice than we are about an Austin Barnes batting practice or a Logan Forsythe batting practice, or, pick whatever guy you want who hit well in batting practice and then had trouble translating it to the field. Shohei Ohtani hasn't had that issue. A couple of the interesting things that he talked about, I retweeted an interview with the Japanese media that somebody added English subtitles. I thought that one was, it seems like maybe we're getting a little bit better answers from Ohtani when it's him answering directly. Obviously he's answering the English questions, but it's, the question is translated to him, then the answer is translated back through him. So maybe we're losing a little bit. It did seem like his answers and it could just be that he is more comfortable with the Japanese media, so he answers more openly. But I really liked his answers there. He was asked if he expects to play in the first spring game, which is, 10 days away now. And he said, we're going to have to see how my condition is over the next week and a half or whatever. He didn't say he plans on it. He didn't rule it out. It's just, he definitely, you can tell that playing in the first spring training game isn't even remotely one of his goals. His goal is to be ready on March 21st. Is that when the 21st, 22nd, somewhere around there, 21st, I think.
21st.
21,
yeah, 21, 22 in Korea, 2021 here, I think.
Okay, that's what it is. So that's what he's planning. That's what he's aiming to be ready for, is the first games that count. And however many spring training games he needs to play in and can play in to get ready for that ultimate goal, I think is what he's going to plan on doing.
Yeah, one other little nugget he did add, going back to the batting practice point, he did say he was going to hit on the field a little more often this season. So, that's a treat if you're somebody that is able to get into Dodger Stadium early, through season tickets or whatever. And he does hit on the field. You'll get to, kind of see a Shohei Ohtani batting practice, which is, like I said, impressive in itself. And, even more so at Dodger Stadium when you have, when you're at different stadiums, you can see how far balls are, but you don't really have maybe the exact sense of how far or how impressive it is. At Dodger Stadium, because you watch a lot of games there, and halfway up the pavilion is impressive, and even anything above that is even more so. And if he hits any outside of over the pavilion, then we can start getting excited about that.
Yeah. And I don't know if we've mentioned this before, but holy crap, he looks good in Dodger blue.
Yeah, he really does. he's definitely not shying away from wearing that Dodger blue anytime he can, and it's looked really good. So
Absolutely.
we got another player that we haven't seen before, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He looks good in Dodger blue as well, and he's had a couple of outing, or I guess social media outings for us to watch, and had also talked to some media. So we'll get into what he said and what he's looked like so far. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy and also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at all the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. If we're not your first listen, we are a good 30 minutes to get your day started, whether you're getting ready for work or going to school or whatever you're doing at the gym, making breakfast, whatever you're doing. We're there for you all day. But if you want to start your day off with us, it wouldn't be frowned upon. And you can also find 2 other streams on YouTube that might be benefit to you from the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles. They're running all day, all night with all the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. They're on YouTube, so go check those out. And Jeff, let's talk about another Japanese player for the Dodgers that we're getting the first look at, and that's Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He threw a bullpen session on Sunday and then has talked to the media. We got to see a little bit of his javelin workout on social media, and we got to hear from him. But from everything we've seen so far, it's kind of funny that Ohtani was there for Yamamoto's bullpen session, and that kind of dominated the headlines in itself of what his bullpen session was. But also there has been a lot of talk from other guys around the Dodgers, about the way he pitches, his stature relating to his velocity and everything else. And just one more thing for us to get excited about.
Yeah, his delivery is really fun to watch. It was fun to see the bullpen session, especially the side angle. It's not quite as unique as like Hideo Nomo's was, or some of the non-Japanese pitchers like Fernando Valenzuela had that unique delivery. Yamamoto's is just like no wasted motion. It's very simple and just really gets everything going towards the plate really efficiently. It's as a former pitcher, it's fun for me to watch. That's something that, my body has never done anything efficiently. So that was fun to watch. And, again, he met with the Japanese media and the American media, had some interesting things to say. They asked him about adjusting to how he's adjusting or, to being on a new team. And he said that the team atmosphere has been amazing. He's been really, really excited being with the Dodgers and just feeling the excitement around the team, which obviously, there's going to be buzz around this team all year long. And he's a big part of the reason, but not even the biggest part. It's kind of crazy that you can come over and sign the biggest contract that any pitcher has ever signed, and you were only the second biggest news on your team that winter. And I think that's probably good for him, and he mentioned having Ohtani in the locker room is nice, kind of just having somebody who has his back. It's been, he said, it was kind of interesting, some of the things he said, the difference between American spring training and Japanese spring training. Like he said, in Japan, it's a little bit more regimented, and here he's a little bit more free to kind of work his own routine. And obviously there's, okay, you throw in a bullpen this day, you need to, there's check marks you have to check, but you have a lot of freedom to get ready the way that your body wants to get ready.
Yeah, one of those things being the javelin that he uses. The Dodgers brought over his guy that, will help with him and whoever else, I would imagine. And yeah, I remember I coached a kid in Little League a long time ago now, and he'd go back to Japan for the summer, and then he'd come and play with us, and he's like, these practices are nothing compared to over there, because the regiment, they practice for like 4 hours, I think, just on a normal like Wednesday afternoon for no reason other than that they're getting better at baseball. So I can tell that. But the freedom. And then kind of on that point, he talked about adjusting to, or once we get into season, adjusting to throwing every 5th day rather than every 6th day, or however, every once a week basically in Japan. And he talked about that he's never done it before, and that he's not entirely sure what to bring, but that he did everything that he said, but I did everything I could in preparation, adjusting mechanics and a lot of different other things, so I will keep adjusting as needed. Now, I would assume the Dodgers are going to ease everyone in, and they're probably going to maybe try to go nobody throwing every 5th day for at least the first month or so. But it's one of those things where he knew he was coming over. I'm sure he started this adjustment even before he signed with the Dodgers, and we'll just have to see what that looks like. But it was, I know Dylan Hernandez mentioned that the Dodgers are planning to start Yamamoto in Korea. Obviously, he would have a week off in between his first start and his second start, just based on the Dodgers schedule specifically. But I mean, it's another, like I said, we're going to keep using the word exciting. Maybe we'll have to get a thesaurus and look up other words, but that's the word that matches our energy right now.
I'm enthralled,
Yeah, there we go.
And another thing that he talked about was the difference in baseballs, which is something a few people have asked us about at different times, because, something that, maybe you're aware, maybe you're not, listeners, but the Japanese, the MPB in Japan, uses slightly smaller balls than Major League Baseball does. And it's kind of funny. Japanese balls are a little bit more exact on their size. Major League Baseball has a little bit of a range, but even the smallest end of the MLB range is a little bit bigger than the Japanese ball. And so one of the questions we got, I can't remember who asked it, and I don't even remember if it was I feel like it was a DM on Twitter, but sorry, I don't remember who it was. But whoever asked me this, yell at me on social media or whatever, let me know it was you. But asked about that because Yamamoto is a little guy, and that probably means smaller hands than some pitchers. And so wondering if he would be inordinately affected by pitching with a slightly larger ball. And he was asked about the ball, and he said that he pitched with it in the World Baseball Classic. They used Major League Baseball's balls in the Classic, and so he's done it there. And he said basically once he knew he was coming over, he's done a lot of throwing with Major League balls and feels totally comfortable. The way he answered the question, he didn't say it's a non-issue, but you could tell that in his mind it's a non-issue. He's not concerned about it at all. I would be interested. I tried to actually research and see if we could find out if he, like, how big his hands are. Because it's kind of funny. Height doesn't always. I'm 6'3" and I have tiny hands for a 6'3" guy. Like I think my 12-year-old son's hands are roughly the same size as mine, and he's freakishly tall and has big hands. But and that was always an issue for me pitching, because I do have small hands for a pitcher, but I'm 6'3", and so Yamamoto could be one of those shorter guys who has bigger hands, or if not, I don't know that the fraction of an inch in circumference is enough to make that much of a difference as far as hand size goes. Obviously it's an adjustment, and maybe as far as spin and everything, but I don't know if it's enough of a difference for hand size to actually matter. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think what you said, the adjustment is more it's not an issue, it's more of an adjustment. Like I said, without having seen his hands. But if you're that dominant with the Japanese baseball, I can't imagine, the slight difference making too much of something that's going to be an issue. I think it's, like I said, it's an adjustment he has to make, and we'll see where it goes from there. The other part that he kind of talked about was that, or what I want to talk about was, I saw there was a picture of Gratterall and Yamamoto kind of together, and someone mentioned like Uribe and Ryu, like part 2 type of deal. So I'm interested to see how Yamamoto, he said that the clubhouse was fun and welcoming and everything else. He talked about Ohtani having his back, but It's always fun to see when like guys from different backgrounds come together, maybe not even, speaking the same language fully, but they become kind of those best friends. So I look forward to seeing what budding bromance comes through this season, or
For
multiple
sure.
ones.
Yeah. It was O-Dog. It was a DM on Twitter. O-Dog over on Twitter, who's what's his him e doggy is his Twitter handle. That's who asked me about it. And he has, I think he said that his wife is Japanese, so speaks Japanese, is really into the Japanese baseball, and so that's why he was thinking about it. The Mizuno baseball in Japan is 8.875 inches. The Rawlings is usually about 9.15 inches. So we're looking at less than half an inch in circumference. So, it sounds like a lot, but you probably wouldn't even notice holding the balls separately unless you're really attuned to it. So,
Yeah, or back to back. Yeah. All right. Mookie Betts was at Camelback Ranch. He talked to the media and kind of, continue the theme of what he's been talking about, FanFest in here, about regular season and postseason and playing through all of it. So we're going to get to that. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. And right now, you can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. You can see what all that means or what all that is with the FanDuel app. And all you got to do is go to FanDuel.com/locked-on and shoot your shot. Lakers got a couple games these next 2 days. Probably not a team I would bet on because they're kind of weird this season, but there's plenty of other things to bet on: points allowed, rebounds, all that type of stuff. And all you got to do is place a $5 bet. That bet wins. You get $150 in bonus bets. So there's no reason not to try FanDuel right now. Go to FanDuel.com/locked-on and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right. We want to thank you for being an everydayer. If you're not an everydayer, that's someone that listens or watches every day. The easiest way to do so is to subscribe and get notified on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts of when our episodes are up and ready. And, we're here for you about 30 minutes, even faster if you like to listen on podcast speeds above 1x. I'm a 2x guy myself, so I could get through this episode in about 15 minutes. You could too if you listen or watch every day. And you can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers Insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can text directly with Jeff and I. We, like to send little special updates and whatnots as the season is getting closer. And once the season is here, maybe some other things that happen at Dodger Stadium, maybe some of those Ohtani batting practice videos that I talked about, if he does take field batting practice. So there's a lot to get into. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers and become a Locked On Dodgers Insider. All right, Jeff, Mookie Betts at Camelback talked to the media and, kind of a rehashing of what he kind of talked about at FanFest in the sense of this season and being excited for the season, being excited after this past off season, being ready to go, coming off a disappointing end to the season last year. And, Mookie kind of talked about his individual season at FanFest, saying that, it was really good, but he didn't finish the season. So, kind of didn't leave the best taste in his mouth, and how he wants to play through that full season this year. And then, with the media yesterday, he talked about, kind of being ready for the season. The Dodgers have a team that is built to win for sure in the regular season, and now a little bit more so in the postseason than maybe last year. But the fact of the matter is that you still got to play the games and you still have to come through. Freddie talked about it as well, not coming through last year. Mookie talked about it. They all kind of talked about it in different ways, and basically just came to the point of nothing went right for them last year. And, I don't know if there's anything you can specifically work on, because if there was, a lot more people would be doing it. But I know, knowing these guys and losing now 2 years in a row in not fun fashion, having some new energy in Yamamoto, Ohtani, and all these other guys coming in, looking forward to kind of what that is. It's a long time away, but still, that's kind of what the focus is going to be on.
Yeah, Mookie kind of called himself out, he talked about how exciting this team is, but then he said that doesn't really matter if you don't show up in October, and he called himself out about going 0 for 11 in October last year. And, he did acknowledge it wasn't just him, but you can tell he is pretty hard on himself. And one of the reporters asked him, it might've been Dylan Hernandez who asked him. I know Dylan was standing there. I couldn't tell who it was who asked him, but, said, have you figured out what happened in October? And Mookie kind of brusquely said, if I figured it out, it wouldn't be happening. So some of that, like, especially by the end of that conversation, it seemed like Mookie was done a little bit before the reporters were done asking questions. And so the answers got a little bit more and more terse, I guess. But yeah, I mean, you could tell that it's been weighing on Mookie the way October went last year, and he is really, really anxious to do something better this year.
Yeah, and kind of, I know, Mookie and Freddie got a lot of flack over the offseason, from Dodger fans. And I remember Mookie, I think after they lost the series, I believe last year, was one of those where, we're all kind of the same guys. Some people make more money or whatever, but, at the end of the day, we're all baseball players, something to that extent. And a lot of people didn't like that comment. And I think, answering questions after you just lost to end your season after being from February to October, you're not always going to have probably the best things to say, or you're not really thinking too much about it. And, now Mookie's had an off season to reflect, and, he's called himself out, and, he's kind of tempered expectations, at least in his own mind, or, I don't think he's trying to bring the mood down. I think he's just, being realistic that he's had one of his best seasons, hitting last year. He had, the Dodgers had a really good season the year before that, and it didn't really amount to much. And part of that was, him not hitting in the postseason, along with a lot of other stuff. And, for someone to be that self-reflective at this point, and, I feel like I would imagine he's not going to get asked about that anymore, hopefully. And if he does, I don't think he's going to answer it anymore. But, it's one of those things where this is the first time you're kind of talking to reporters. If, FanFest is usually a little bit more fun, but now you're, getting a little bit different questions now here in spring training. And, I'm sure we're going to hear from Freddie and a lot of the other guys, and, guys that have been open about it before and probably open about it again. And like I said, it's not to put a damper on everything that's coming, because as we've said on this podcast a lot, the regular season is not just as fun as, postseason. Well, it is, because the Dodgers have one more in the regular season, but, it's to enjoy the whole ride. And especially now with, kind of like we've said a lot, the team that they've built this season.
Yeah, I do think we expect too much of players as far as the ability to be introspective, like while they are still emotional about a loss. Kenley Jansen used to get crap all the time from the fans because, his answers after blowing a save weren't the kind of answers that fans wanted to hear. And I was like, I don't care. Like it obviously Kenley Jansen cares. And so when he says something that implies that he doesn't care, okay, so he's not in a position right now, right after the game, to be totally honest with the media. Doesn't bother me at all. I don't think that's going to have any effect on his pitching. And it's kind of the same way with Mookie. Like, when those other guys drive nice cars too, just giving credit to the other team. They're good players too. That's all he was saying was these are major league players. They made the playoffs too. They're really a really good team. And fans got so upset about it. And it's like, you know what? Like it's anybody who's watched Mookie play for any amount of time knows how much he cares and how much he wants to win. And so I don't need him. His job isn't to, in a matter of seconds, identify what went wrong and explain it to the media. His job is to get better. And, I'd much rather have him focus on that. And if that means giving cliche answers or answers that make people mad after the games, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And like I said, it's everyone's going to talk about it here the next few days. And then I would imagine get moved past and on to the season. The Dodgers, play a legitimate MLB game in about 6 weeks, and maybe even less than that. And, the Dodgers are the first team there. It's kind of been fun these last few days because I haven't seen any Padres stuff. Have they not report? I don't know if
they just reported on Sunday.
Oh, okay.
So pitchers and catchers just reported. So it's and they don't really have any pitchers or catchers on their team anymore. So the position players, we still got a couple days left until they report.
Yeah, so it's been a fun few days on, for us Dodger fans, because it's been all Dodgers. That's the only stuff that's out there right now. And, it's kind of fun to see that. We'll see more teams kind of reporting this week and see how all that goes. But yeah, there's a lot to get into, a lot to still go. We're probably going to see, some of these position players start hitting on the field. We're going to see more bullpens. I mean, we didn't even really get to touch on Tyler Glasnow's bullpen and kind of the different angles we saw from his stuff and the overlays from Pitching Ninja and all that type of stuff. Exciting. There's, a lot to keep getting into, and we're going to keep seeing. And, spring training is here, and, we're ready to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. It's exciting. We've heard the pop of the glove. We've now heard the crack of the bat. And so all that's left is the smell of the grass, and then it's play ball time, I think.
Yeah. So there's a lot to look forward to, and we'll be here, every step of the way for spring training and everything else that goes on, whether it's Ohtani, whether it's Dodgers, whether it's Yamamoto, everything involving the LA Dodgers and the blue. We're here for you. So make sure to check us out. That'll do it for today's episode. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can find Jeff on Twitter at SnyDog. I'm at Vincent91. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. You can go on YouTube, and after you watch our episode, you can go to Locked On Sports Today or Locked On Sports Los Angeles, and you can find those 24/7 streaming channels talking about all the sports and stories from the LA sports world and the regular sports world from Locked On hosts and experts. You can also go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider and text directly with us. All you got to do is go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers and check that out and start getting direct reports from us, pretty much daily at this point with spring training kicking off. There is a lot more to get into that we'll get into the next few days. So make sure to become an everydayer and listen or watch every day. We'd greatly appreciate it. And tell your friends and family and anybody else that's a Dodger fan in your life that if they have 30 minutes to spare a day or even less, they can do so by listening to Locked On Dodgers. So you don't have to I've definitely lost myself in this roundabout way of getting here. But Jeff, can you take us out? Because I'm very lost right now.
Yeah, you can email us at lockedondodgers.com, or you can send us a voicemail or a text message, 323-863-LOCK-5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.